Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Open Mic podcast. My name is Caroline. I am a junior at Columbia University, and today I'm so excited to be introducing you to my good friend, Weiting Hong, who is a finance and stats major at NYU Stern. Weiting, thank you for being here today.
Yep, Caroline, thank you very much for inviting me. It's my honor to be here. And yeah, my name is Weiting Hong. I'm a current junior at NYU Stern, currently studying finance and statistics. And also, I'm an international student. I was born in Shenzhen, China.
Nice. Yeah. So last episode, we spoke with a Columbia student, right? And now we're moving a little bit more downtown into the very fun areas of New York City, where NYU is. So I guess before we even get started, do we want to talk about how we know each other? Just as a brief intro. Through our high school careers and now. So Weiting and I, we're from the same area in New York. We're both from New York. Weiting's an international student, but we'll talk more about that later. But he went to high school in New York, and so we knew each other from working in Congresswoman Grace Meng's office.
Yep.
As freshies in high school, and then we knew each other some more through math tournaments. Do you want to talk about that?
So sure. I think we first met each other sitting on the receptionist desk in Congresswoman Grace Meng's office, picking up the phone, answering the calls from constituents. And then later on, I'm not sure which event happened first, because both of us also attended the Columbia Science Honors Program, in which sciencey stuff. And we also attended math team competitions. We were both in math contests, I think regional, and also traveling to Armo and something else. I forgot, but a lot of math competition, a lot of science. So that's how I guess our friendship developed from that initial receptionist desk introduction.
Yeah, it was fun times. Weiting's just super smart at math too, so it makes sense that he's a finance and stats major. I mean, we can start off just talking about how you chose to attend NYU Stern, how you chose your major, and just go off of that.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds great. The interest in business, I guess, more generally. So for some background, my mother, she works in commercial banking. So since when I was very little, she started talking to me about the 3 financial statements. And this kind of dinner table discussions over time, I started to have this interest in the financial markets and how things go down, right? And in high school, I joined this competition called 𝗪𝗘𝗏. Some of you might have done it, but essentially it's now thinking about it's more of a business consulting kind of competition. Didn't really think about that before. But that essentially really, I guess, propelled me to learn more about the various aspects of business and realizing how fascinating the field is and how tangible it is in real life. And that is what essentially solidified my interest in the finances, and hence, applying, getting into NYU Stern and attending eventually. And in the beginning, I think my interest was more toward the data science aspect of finance. And I think I wrote that in my admission essays and everything. But later on, so first of all, getting into Stern with that finance, I guess, interest in mind, I concentrated in finance. And for my second concentration, I chose statistics just because I feel it's a bit more more theoretical, more derivation instead of just using your computer to do all the work. It tells you more about the fundamental principles about all that data generation processes. So I feel it's a very good way to enhance my theoretical backbone going into these fields. And that's essentially why I chose finance and statistics for my concentrations.
Wow, that's really interesting. I like your progression and your journey.
Yeah, it's also kind of, going off our previous discussion about, how we both did math competition in high school. It's also I didn't major in mathematics, but having that statistics concentration somewhat makes up for that kind of interest, my interest in quantitative inquiry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think that you're talking about DECA and just high school extracurriculars? Do you think those translate well into what you're experiencing now in undergrad?
I think it does. I think it absolutely does. So I mean, DECA is it's a pretty big competition as there are many different events. So I'm sure that, the different fields you look into, it will, I guess, help you differently into different schools and different major, different studies. But for me, my event was business financial services. So by the sound of it, it is finance. So within that, I learned a lot of basic accounting and a lot of basic valuation and everything like that. So going into a business school, I kind of have the basic, very basic, but still like a basic idea of what makes a business valuable, what are some good decision-making framework, right? As well as the basic language of finance, which is accounting. So that I think in itself helped me a lot, just because I think later on we might also touch on the topic of, clubs, organizations, and recruiting and jobs and everything like that. So definitely that high school experience gave me a pretty good foundation to start.
That's great. Yeah. Did staying in this city really appeal to you? I feel like with your major, the city is a pretty good place for that.
Like personally though, right? As you know me, I'm more of an indoor kind of person. So that's, I don't know about that portion, but just if we're only talking about like the amount of resources you can tap into, or you know what, like even though I'm an indoor person, I still enjoy great food, right? So being in the city definitely give you that. And the job, yeah, that's 100% unparalleled being in the city. Especially like if you're looking into industries like investment banking, that's very New York centric, then it's of great convenience and help if you are located in the city trying to recruit for those kind of jobs.
Yeah.
Because like I think I've heard from my friends from other colleges, for example, like Georgetown, if they want to interview for a position in the city, they have to travel all the way from over there to New York, and then just to do the super day or do the interview here. And that is very stressful for sure. But for us, just because of the physical proximity, it's much easier.
Yeah. One of my friends from high school, I think it was a CS related major, but he also had some interviews and just was like getting to know the company, and he had to fly all the way back to New York and then fly all the way back for school. So I feel like that is a big commitment.
Very stressful. So like for the likes of Columbia and NYU, like we definitely have that home field advantage, if you call it that.
Yeah, that's a
just a
good way to put it. Yeah. And just talking about those, do you think that your on-campus experiences, like on campus versus off campus, how would you describe those?
I guess, okay, just because right now it's COVID, right? So it's not really representative. But to answer that question, I think perhaps my freshman year is like a better time frame to look into for that question. So when I was off campus, I was essentially in my residential dorms, right? And within that, it's more relaxation, more socializing with each other, right? Like building friendship, playing games, passing your time, and then just really spending meaningful time with people that you enjoy being with. Whether it's going to classes or going to club organizations, trying to figure out what do I really want to do, right? So the great thing about NYU as a whole, as well as Stern, is that there are a lot of student organizations that will, at least one of them will tailor to your interest no matter what. So during my freshman year, like I was going through essentially every club on the list that's like tangential to my interest, and just to see which one is the best. And all of them get free lunch, so that is perfect. So I will say that on campus was a more, but I guess residential dorms are also on campus if you think about it. But just in the academic building itself is definitely much more busy and more professionally and academically oriented than when off campus, when it's more socializing and just relaxation.
And talking about that, like you were saying, it's kind of on campus, but it's still kind of off campus. How does that work? Like, what is NYU's campus? If you're just going to give.
Oh, right. That's a very good point you're bringing up. So, as many knows, NYU doesn't really have a campus, despite what they may say. We're essentially just in the city, buildings scattered around that general region near Washington Square Park. Everything's integrated. Like if you exit your dorm, that's the street right there, right? Like that's Fifth Avenue, because I lived in Reuben, the only dorm without air conditioning. But if you were to go outdoors, that's the city right there for you, right? All the pedestrians, all the restaurants, all the shops are all very, very in a reachable distance. So I guess that's a pretty good perk. Although arguably, it takes slightly longer from some residential hall to get to your academic building. So for example, I know that I forgot the names of these particular halls, but for some of them, it takes like 10-minute walking or so to get to your building, or maybe even longer, 15. It really depends. But for me, I think generally it's still very enjoyable just because how close everything is. And let's say if I really oversleep, I can always run to my class in 5 minutes. So it's not too bad either. So.
Same for my first year. I lived in one of the residence halls on 116th, and then my first class was in Hamilton Hall, which is it's literally like a 2-minute run away. If you time yourself, you can get down the stairs and you can run.
Very nice. That's the way to go.
That's the way.
That's also where we took classes for SHP, right? Was it the Columbia Science Honors Program?
Hamilton?
The really big hall.
Was it Hamilton? It was the one where you're walking down College Hall,
and then you turn left. It's right near the math library, kind of.
Oh no, that's is that Pupin? The physics lab?
Right.
Where did we?
Oh well, I don't really know Columbia.
Maybe Mud. It might be Mud. It was like maybe. Yeah. Well, you can look up a Columbia campus map on Google. Yep. I think we'll find out by doing that.
You deepen my knowledge of the uptown rival.
So funny, I think. Yeah, that was I thank you for like that really good description. And I guess going into it, easing into talking about classes now. What kind of core is there?
Yes. So I think so we do have a college core. So essentially, I guess my feeling is that colleges, like kind of universities, center around their College of Arts and Sciences, right? And then you have all these specialized schools. That's how I think about it. So that's why for the Stern School of Business, you first have to complete. I mean, you don't have to do it first sequentially, but it's only a requirement to finish the college core curriculum. So that's things like, for example, writing. Every freshman have to take a writing class, right? Also, every freshman have to, I think, let's see, what's also there? Well, don't have to be a freshman to do it, but there's also like culture and context, text and ideas, essentially classes that have more of a historical theme to it and that you must read and write, right? So I think, at least for NYU, like these abilities are deemed to be fundamental to a successful undergraduate education. So to encourage students explore more fields, the school will mandate everyone to take at least 4 introductory courses in different disciplines out of the 6 that they offer, so that you get a better perspective on how things are run. There's also a social impact core. So Stern has like recently, I think, been even more focused on the social impact perspective, right? Really not just training the students in, how do you break into the finance field, but also how do you make an impact, right? What does it mean to make an impact in itself? One class I just took this semester was called Business Law, Business and Society, LBS. And that was very interesting because it talks about human rights, right? Like what are the constitutional rights guaranteed in the United States? How is the common law system, operated, and everything surrounding that? And what's the larger implication to businesses and to the society? I guess one more thing that's also worth mentioning, aside from the class requirement, and of course, after you finish all those stuff, you'll also have to concentrate in at least one concentration to graduate, right? So, for example, I can just do finance concentration and then just call it a day, right? And just finish and then use all my other classes to explore, perhaps. Maybe that's an option. But you can double concentrate. I don't think you can, I'm not sure. Well, technically you can take classes and fulfill 3 different concentrations, but I think only 2 will show up in your diploma. And another thing about Stern is that almost everyone have Friday open. No Stern class will take place on Friday. So Friday is usually for people to, explore, do your work, or perhaps, take other classes from other different colleges, or even go for internship and have a 3-day weekend or whatever you prefer. From Monday to Thursday, every day's noon is called common hour. That's a pretty interesting mechanism because that's when all the clubs meet. The common hour stretches. Yeah. Yeah,
that's so interesting. Sorry for interrupting. I was just thinking,
I've been rambling.
No. Because like at Columbia, it's like because clubs usually meet at night. So I thought that most colleges they had like club activities from 6 p.m. onwards, and then classes throughout the day. But that's interesting that you guys have this noontime club.
Yeah.
So how are clubs and student organizations at Stern or at NYU in general?
Right. So yeah, I actually don't really know about NYU generally, just because all my club involvement are within the bubble of Stern, right?
So you guys have within each school, are there specific clubs that only certain students from certain schools can join, or is it more of a major centric?
I don't believe so, but that tends to be the case.
Okay.
Right. So like, I don't think there's any official restriction. Let's say, okay, this is a Stern club, so nobody else can join. We're just so cool. That's not the thing, right? Like they are all officially called like NYU Finance Society, NYU Quantitative Finance Society. Like they are based in Stern, but anyone can apply and can join.
Mhm.
But it's just that, due to how, if you go to a certain specialized school, you have that specialized training,
Right.
then you are likely to have a better chance to, join their core training program, that kind of thing. But so the previous common hour idea I mentioned, every day from 12:30 to 1:45, that 1 and 15-minute period is for clubs to meet within Stern. I don't know about any school else, but anyone can come and listen to this. These are called general meetings. And usually each student organization will have their like core, team or something like that you can apply and get into. And those are more exclusive. For all the new meetings, anyone can go. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to be a member even. You can just join and listen. Right. And there's always free food. So for anyone who is joining NYU, that's a great tip. You're going to save on some money, go on the clubs, learn some knowledge, and get some food. It's great.
Feed yourself.
Yep, treat yourself 100%. Yeah, so essentially after you apply to different clubs, then you will be part of their more core organization, right? And the meeting time for that is more discretionary, but that also usually take place after like 5 or 6. Because usually like for Stern, aside from the stats and actual real science concentrations, the classes usually end at 4:45. So anytime starting from 5 is usually when clubs are meeting.
Great, thanks, Weiting. And you mentioned that you have to be accepted to the clubs, right? So there are application processes.
Yes, there is. The application style varies depending on what club you're trying to join. But I'll just speak to the ones that I have experience about. So personally, I'm a part of the Finance Society and the Quantitative Finance Society. So within that, what happens is usually we'll have a written application. Why do you want to join us? Your resume, right? Like what do you think is your value add to our core organization and everything like that. And afterwards, there can be like 1 to 2 rounds of interview in which we, different clubs also have different, things they look for in examination. So for example, QFS is really looking for that raw intelligence and market interest. You just like, if you have interest in the financial market, then I think we'll love it very much. And then for Finance Society, it's more because our Finance Society's application is only open to freshmen in their springtime, right? So what we expect is that you come to our freshman fall general meetings, listen to what we are teaching you, and take notes and truly try to understand whatever we are saying. And then during your freshman spring, it's essentially we're trying to test whether you paid attention, right? Did you put in work? And did you reach out to the rest of us? So different clubs really have their own different quirks. That's the gist of the story.
Oh, that's interesting. Is that like the round 1, round 2? Is that similar to actual recruiting for?
That is right. Yep. Although actual recruiting is, I think, arguably much more stressful when you're in person. Essentially. But yeah, I think it's somewhat modeled after that. And also different clubs have different focus, right? Like some of it put learning as their primary objective, right? Learning about financial markets and then recruiting as a secondary benefit. But some clubs put the professional aspect first and foremost and learning as a secondary benefit. So depending on different clubs and how their goals are set up, it could be very different, the experience you have.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's cool. Like when did you know all of this? Was it when you started going to the club info sessions?
That's definitely part of it, but also before I joined Stern, so this very good friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, and also an upperclassman, Kevin Ho. I talked to him a lot in the summer before my entrance into Stern. So he told me about all the ins and outs about everything. Like, okay, if you want to do finance, what are some clubs you should go for? What are some classes you should be taking? So yeah, advice here: connect with people and don't be afraid to ask questions and reach out. It's very, very helpful to get to know a new environment.
Agreed. I like that. I feel like people learn that when they are in the midst of everything in college, but I feel like it's definitely a really good idea to start early. And I feel like talking to people, you will gain insights that you can never find online or with any like other resource. So definitely
100%. I think perhaps a fitting analogy is like, okay, if I were to just put it on a fishing boat and give you a net, of course, over time, you're going to figure it out. You're smart, right? But then if you just have a fisherman teach you how to do it, you'll get it much faster.
New quote for the day.
wow. Truly philosophical.
Yeah. I remember my first year, I was curious and I was kind of just like exploring and seeing what every career path was about. And there was this event hosted by our school newspaper. So it was kind of like I guess like a club hosted event about banking, finance, and something else. Another related career. And that's when I kind of like first understood that this process is super tough and it's a super long process. I didn't know you had to secure an internship like the year before you were going to actually do the internship. Right. So how was that for you? Like how did you make it through that?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll just run through my recruiting experience. So usually people start. So the general advice is that if you really, you're just going into the business school thinking that you just want to do the finance jobs, then it's most recommended to figure out what particular field do you want to do, like sometime in your freshman year, so you can strategize your summer internships and your club participation like accordingly. The earlier you know your game plan, the more time you have to develop that, right? And these things really need a lot of, I guess, specialization per se of your time. But usually people start like, studying the financial concepts that will be, asked during interviews, perhaps sometime in their sophomore fall, more likely. And usually the entire process starts in sophomore spring. During that time, you will be going around networking with financial professionals. That's especially valuable in some fields like investment banking, just that you have to get to know the people, right? Like the knowledge itself, anybody can learn, but whether you can work well with the team, especially as it's often very high stress environment, to have that likable personality is quite important. And also, how you socialize, how do you talk with your clients is also kind of ability reflected by how you talk with the professionals. So that'll take place in your sophomore spring. And during that time, you're also applying to different banks or other financial institution. Well, now I'm more talking about just the investment banking timeline. Other fields can be very different. After you apply, usually like some banks are really early. They could have their first round interview as early as in sophomore spring, like in the March of your sophomore spring. And you might have your super day, which is what people call the final round interview in, just perhaps 2 weeks later or 1 week later. And super day tends to be very intense. From the stories I've heard, when it was in person, when there was no COVID, you might have to sit through like 4 rooms, each one half an hour or more, and really getting that stress tested and see how you handle that pressure, how you're able to still be able to, I guess, hold your ground, still talk like a normal person, despite all that kind of stress and fatigue and pressure. So that is definitely one thing that banks do. And if you were to, through all your hard work as well as some luck, get an offer in your sophomore spring, that is an offer for your junior summer. So as Caroline said, that is 1 year, more than 1 year earlier than your intended internship. Right. And that internship, most people will, try to go for a return offer, right? Especially if you love it during the internship, then you should be working really hard and try to secure a full-time return offer so that another summer later, when you graduate from your senior year, you will be expecting to return to that financial institution and work as a full-time employee.
That's after a long process. So what do you do during the summers before you can actually secure those types of internships?
Yeah, so very good question. So let's see. Well, I guess we're talking about 2 summers here. Mostly one summer, your freshman summer, perhaps sophomore summer, depending on what you're interviewing. For example, I know consulting generally happens, their recruiting timeline is more a junior fall kind of vibe. And like tech positions are also later, but those are different industries I have no idea about. So I'm not going to pretend I know anything about them. But yeah, so essentially your freshman summer, what do you do? Right, for example, if your mind just set on banking like the moment you walk into Stern, which I do not recommend doing, you should be exploring. But say that's the case, then you should be trying to find, for example, like a hedge fund internship or like a smaller bank, smaller institution. So the more general tip here is that don't try to go for the big names. Like maybe go for it, but like don't expect you will get the big names in your freshman year. Like that's very unlikely. And the better way to think about your freshman summer is that you want to learn as much as possible about the field that you think you want to do, as well as the whole financial market, right? So what are some organizations best suited to do that? Usually I will say small teams. Whether it's banks or funds, a small team, a smaller organization is actually much better than a much larger one. Because in a small team, you actually, as an intern, get that responsibility. Because there isn't that many people. If they have you on board as an intern, they expect you to do things as a full-time employee, right? And that is such a good learning experience because you're participating in everything they're doing. And when you talk about this experience, it's not just trying to embellish. You actually have that very solid experience down your belt. So yeah, I will recommend you to try to look for smaller, more close-knit organizations and try to increase your proficiency that way to know about the entire industry better.
Yeah, I like that because it's like a journey. Like you really want to get the good foundation set, and then you can actually show the big dogs what you can do. And
100%. And also by doing those internships, you also get an idea of whether you like the field or not, right? So maybe by doing something, you're like, okay, I really hated this. Like I don't get to interact with clients. Like that's what I want to do. Then you can go for a different field, right? Or for example, you think that I don't want to do something that's entirely financy, right? I want to talk something that's a little bit more strategic about the more operational aspect of things. Then if that's your realization, you can also go for that. So the idea is that by doing different internships, not only do you enhance your knowledge, you also have a better idea of what do you want to do in the future.
Gotcha. Do you think that the NYU Alum Network, the alumni, are helpful in this regard?
100%, very much. Hands down, very big, very, very, very big help in all your professional endeavors. But the tightness of the alumni and the association with you and them also depends a lot on your student organizations, right? So that is why also people are very interested in organizations, especially the more professionally oriented one, because as we said before, networking is important. So therefore, relationship building is important. If your organization already have alum in those banks, they are held by the alum above them to get into those positions, right? So the kind of torch just passed down. And how do you get into that chain? You join the student organizations.
Yeah, gotcha. How do you, Weiting, you talked about networking a bit. How do you network? What is networking?
Very, very good question. So when it was in person, right, there are several different ways. The most common way is firms, they like to hold on-campus events. I'm sure you might have seen those around in Colombia as well, but essentially, for example, a certain like a bank, right? They might bring their entire team of analysts, associates, even their managing director to your campus, and then they will rent out your venue for a night, and then they will kind of go through what's their bank what does the structure of their bank look like, what benefits do you get by doing an internship, and just kind of sell themselves. And after they do that, after they brag a lot, you're supposed to go up close to them and then talk. Just talk to them essentially, not just to talk about anything though, right? If you have any genuine interest in the field, you want to know more things about it, or for example, they have a little panel discussion, and then for example, you're really interested in this one analyst and his experience and how, for example, they transfer from one group to another or some maneuver like that, and you want to learn more about it, then you go up, shake hands, and then just ask them your genuine questions. So networking is essentially that, right? You show off your interest to them, and you're also gaining information from talking to them. That's essentially how it works, and it's usually quite chaotic, just because when there is an event like that, everybody will be trying to go. People from all different schools, all different organizations are here, and then usually, let's say this is one analyst, he or she will be surrounded by rings of people, usually 2 to 3 rings. So it's quite chaotic. And another way for people to network is to send out cold emails, right? You don't really know that person, but you know that that person is in a group, for example, you're interested in an industry you want to learn more about, then just shoot them an email. And the response rate really depends, usually not so high, but that's another way to establish meaningful connection. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that's a lot of great information. Thanks, Weiting.
Yeah, no problem.
What do you think? Yeah, what do you think you can do to make yourself stand out? I feel like that's a tough question. Because what do you have to bring? You have to bring your resume. You have to bring. Do you have to bring anything else for your networking?
Not even resume,
No?
honestly. Like,
Okay.
yeah, when you're just talking to people, like, you know, they are working through an entire very stressful day. They are there to just kind of, escape from the office, chill a bit, and then all this like undergrads are like swarming them. So, some people bring resumes, but I don't think that's a good way to do it. But usually people will ask for, the person's email or whatever, and then later on follow up, thank them for their time, and then perhaps attach your resume electronically then. But it really depends on the style you're going for. Like many people have many different approach. So no one approach is right. And when you're saying how do you make yourself stand out, honestly, I think the better tip is not to make yourself stand out in a negative way. Like you would rather be just normal, is that a good word? Like rather just be common and undistinguished than leaving a negative impression by being too aggressive and for example, like not letting other people ask any of their questions, just like always rambling on. That could be something to leave a really bad impression. It really depends, but I guess just use your tact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good advice too. Everyone write that down. I feel like that's something that is often not said, but it's like, it's as a human being, this is what.
Right. Be considerate. Be considerate of those around you and the professional that is spending their time to talk to you.
I like that. Yeah. Thanks, Weiting.
Yeah, no
So this was like in person, right? So how has this all changed during COVID? Is it online now? Is it?
Right. So from my understanding, since I got my offer, all my networking was in person. From what I understand from asking sophomores, essentially the idea is that the firms, they are going to host Zoom meetings, and then all of their team will be, many of them will be working remotely first of all. So that is why like Zoom makes sense, right? So you're socially distanced 100%. And the networking is usually after, they sell themselves, they will bring everybody into breakout rooms. And then, you can hop into one that you're more interested in and talk to the person over there, right? That's, I guess, the way they're doing that now. But back then when it was in person, they also usually provide free food. So that is great. Some firms spend more food than others on food. So it's also very interesting.
Like sandwiches? Or
some very bougie sandwiches, not just your normal sandwiches. Some firm provide really good food. So yeah, there's always opportunities to get free food around the campus, at least in NYU. I'm sure it's also similar in Columbia, but there's always free food around if you want to.
You'll find before COVID, it was, I feel like in 𝗖𝗎, this is the School of International and Public Affairs, a little bit farther from the undergrad classrooms, though we do have some classes in there. You'll always find after, I feel like some clubs, they have like big events because it's like 𝗖𝗎 and it's like more large scale events, and there's always like plates of food. You'd be like, can I grab one of those? Yeah, it was good times. And I'm just thinking like now, because everything's online, you don't have to worry about your handshake. I feel like that's a big part. Do you have to practice your handshake?
Yeah, that is true. Now that I think about it,
your grip. It's like
that is true. I guess online do make things more streamlined and easier. Maybe that's the benefit of the entire Zoom university kind of vibe. But
yeah, thanks for giving a great overview of that. I think I learned a lot from that because I wasn't really clear about the process before.
Yeah, no problem at all. Like usually as for people who are not looking to get into the finance field, and for people like, for example, high schoolers who just came out of high school, going into the college, usually you wouldn't have an idea about what does the process look like. It's only after you got into college and you realize that, oh, this is the place I want to go into, and you start talking to people, that's how you start to know how it works. Yeah, it's only natural. Yeah.
Awesome. And talking about like going from high school to college, where do you see yourself going after college?
So what's happening right now is that I'm planning to graduate in 3 years. So I'm a current junior.
Woo!
Although I'm a junior, but I guess I'm a senior at the same time. I'm graduating after next semester.
Right.
And the plan is that I'm currently applying to graduate schools. Just because I'm an international student, it makes more sense for me to grab on a graduate degree, before anything else. So right now I'm applying to 1-year graduate degree, and also to see, whether whether I have like there's a place for me in academia, because personally I think I really thrive in that kind of academic environment. I love studying a lot.
Oh, nice.
Kind of nerdy, but we're both from the math team. What do you know? But yeah, so after college, that's the first thing. I hopefully if everything goes out well, I'll be joining a 1-year graduate degree program, get a master's, and then after that, if the academia I really enjoy it and whatever, then perhaps at a later date I will be pursuing a perhaps PhD or academic research down the road. But let's say if it doesn't really go well for me, I still have that offer from investment bank, so that's where I can go back to.
Nice.
But yeah, so like currently my plan is just to give myself more optionality into different career path, and that's how I've been thinking about my career planning.
And you talked about as an international student specifically, you think it's a better idea, or I guess is that the track that really? Okay.
Yeah. So for a little bit more background, I mean, if you have international audience, they must already know what does it feel like. But essentially, as international students, we're here on F1 visa, most of us anyway. In the future, if you want to work in the States as an undergrad, which is natural among local citizens, but if you're an international student and you want to work straight out of undergrad, you have to either let's say get a green card, but not many people have the opportunity. If you can't do that, then you have to get H1B visa, which is your work visa. When you are trying to plan out your future, let's say several years down the road, it's a very big factor of randomness that is not entirely favorable, right? Because you can plan for that essentially. If you were to get a graduate degree, just immediately, your chance of getting that work visa doubles. That's a lot. And also, as I said before, I was born in Shenzhen, China. So in the worst case scenario, there's no visa for me and everything doesn't work in the US. I really need a graduate degree to find meaningful work back in Asia, right? So that is why I think, especially for Asian international students, that's perhaps a good path to consider and how you arrange your career. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And talking about being an international student, do you think you were able to take advantage of the international opportunities at Stern?
Okay, so first of all, I was trying to apply for study abroad back in my sophomore fall and study in Spain, because in high school, I went to high school in the US, although I'm still an international student. But I was thinking, it would be cool to actually go to the place where I have studied this language for so long and see that in action. Also, by the way, I don't speak any Spanish anymore, so don't ask me anything on that. But I was interested in see and experience the culture, right? Also, I have never been to Europe, so that would be such a cool experience for me. But my visa, there's some I don't know what went wrong, but something didn't go through. The fact that I'm a Chinese citizen but went to high school in the US apparently is screwing with their process, and my visa didn't go through, so I wasn't able to take advantage of that opportunity. But just more generally though, especially when we are in person, within NYU Stern specifically, there is this international studies program, which I believe, I'm not sure if it's part of the social impact core, but I don't think it's part of the social impact core, but it's a required course that you have to take, which happens in your junior spring, that you'll be taking an international trip to one of the 3 places of the year that the administration gives you, and travel abroad with your friends. And there's also an educational component to it, but we all know it's just for fun. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Talking about some fun questions, shall we move on?
Sure.
Fun questions.
Hopefully I'll give a fun answer.
Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna make these. I have some and then I'll make some up on the spot. So, stereotypes about finance majors.
All right.
What are they and are they true?
Well, I'm sure Caroline knows already, but business schools are known as snake schools sometimes, that are full of snakes. What does a snake mean? A snake refers to a person who is define a snake. What would you see on Urban Dictionary? I don't know if it's there, but snake is essentially people that are, I guess, just really cutthroat and works to undermine other people's success and effort, and just being really I guess, hyper competitive to the point that it's unfriendly and just very malicious. That's probably a snake, right? And people tend to think that business school is full of snakes, people who just don't care about others, have no human emotion, and they're just straight up sociopath. But that's not the case. So essentially, I think within Stern, people definitely have that. It does definitely have that reputation within NYU. But just based on my experience, I feel many people are very genuine, curious, and hardworking individuals. They work hard. That is very true. But I don't think there are many snakes that works to undermine other people's success. So I will say that rumor is mostly false. But then again, maybe I'm a snake and I don't see that myself, right? It's hard to say. But I think that is largely untrue.
Okay, gotcha. That's funny. Self-identify, and you cannot.
Right. I mean, if I were to be a snake, I wouldn't think I'm a snake, right? So can't argue if somebody were to point that at me. But
oh, gotcha. Also, I heard that Stern, you have your own Wi-Fi. Is that true?
Well, that's right. We have our own Wi-Fi.
Oh, do you guys get the password, or is that how does that work?
Yeah, I think we do have our own separate Wi-Fi, but it's been a while, so I don't remember.
I mean, you've been off campus.
It's been too long, yeah. But I have a feeling we do. But don't take my word on it.
We can Google this after and see. Can you talk a little bit about the relationship between, or I guess like what kinds of different schools does NYU have? I know there's College of Arts and Sciences, there's Tisch, there's a lot of different undergrad schools, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. There is really a lot. Like, well, definitely Tisch, Stern, Cass, like very prominent. And other ones, I think there's let's see, well, Tandon, the engineering school that's based in Brooklyn, right? That's definitely one undergrad institution. I don't know, I'm not sure if others are strictly undergrad or they are purely graduate schools. But I know that Gallatin is also another undergrad school in NYU. I think that's more for, independent study. I'm not exactly sure about how other schools operate, so I'm not going to even make any conjecture on that.
Since there are so many undergrad schools, do you think that, is it easy to make friends across all the schools in New York, at least, not the ones in Shanghai or Abu Dhabi, but in the local area?
I'll say that in your freshman year is the easiest because you live in dorms. If you do that, well, dorms are not school based, right? They are every school coming together, so that's when you can really develop your friendship to people in different schools. And even if you I guess after you become a sophomore, you can still try to take classes in other different schools. That's also a very good benefit of NYU, right? Just because how the variety and the breadth of knowledge that it covers through all these specialized institutions really allows you to broaden your scope. And within that, you also meet people from different, schools, and different majors. So there is a lot of opportunity to meet new people. And there are also a lot of on-campus events around NYU. Like your dorm also organizes like movie nights and other outings. So there's always something to do and make friends with people across different schools and backgrounds.
What would you say your favorite spot is on campus?
It's okay. This sounds really this might sound really bad on my part, but I really love the so in Stern, there's a third floor. Third floor, right? Yeah, there's a third floor. It has a lounge, and if you go into the lounge and turn like right, essentially there is a room of like 4 Bloomberg terminals. I really love that room. Not because I specifically always just enjoy the only financing, the financy things of the world, but because like my club always hang out there. So that I guess is one of my favorite rooms in Stern.
Is it because of the people? I feel like it's because of the people.
That's right, because of the people, not because of the Bloomberg terminals. As the keyboards are, year-round broken, so that is not too fun. And I guess another spot that I think many people will resonate with is Washington Square Park, right? That's literally the center of the NYU campus. But yeah, it's always really great, kind of chill over there, seeing all the street performers. And then during winter time, they'll always put up a Christmas tree. Always a very good photo spot and to chill and relax.
Is that next to, is it called Bobst?
That's right.
Did I pronounce it right? I call it Bob's.
Right. Bob's Library. Yeah.
I remember I saw
of your downtown rival.
Oh my gosh. No, I went in there once. It was so nice. It's high ceilings, super high. Or like
I mean, I always thought the outside of these buildings looked really ugly, but that might just be me. But inside is
so nice.
Yeah, inside is very nice.
Architecture is really nice. And I think there was even a Columbia NYU exchange where we can go down to your libraries and you can come up to ours. We
Oh,
could
I
borrow
think that's a
books.
thing.
Is that a
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
So
that's a thing.
in case one campus doesn't have it, or in case you're at the other library for some reason, you can still check
Perhaps.
out books. I think that's a thing. Yeah.
I think that's great. Yeah, I think they do it.
Hmm.
I think NYU also share library access with, I think Cooper Union is it. I think several
Oh,
other
okay.
schools around the
Yeah,
place. But
near that area.
again, don't take my word for that. I think I only have that impression because this one time I was logging into the online library, I saw like the names of other schools. And I assume like that's probably what they're doing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. What's your favorite library then? Is it Bob's, or do you study in libraries?
Well, I'm not aware of other libraries. That's a problem.
Is that the only library, or no? I'm sure there's more, right?
I don't know, but to my knowledge, that's the only one. I know like Columbia
Oh.
have a bunch, right? Just like lying around the campus, or there's a math library, just like specific dedicated
Yeah.
to different subjects. I'm not sure if NYU had, maybe I have, but I have
Mhm.
never been.
Okay.
I usually during freshman year, I usually study in my dorm, and then later on, it's more of a kind of hang out in the third floor and study together as there are computers over there. Sometimes in both, but not often.
Okay, got it. And talking about dorms, is it usually, do you get singles? Like, is that common, or is it mostly doubles or
I
even
don't think
triples?
singles are common. And also, I got assigned to a low-cost dorm, so that is more of a double or triple scenario. I was pretty lucky though. I mean, I was living with just one roommate, but I think the room was supposed to be a triple, so it was super spacious. That was awesome. But yeah, I don't know how often are singles. But if I were to give advice, right, like I would still advise you to get roommates. For that is a very good part of college experience, and you get to meet someone else, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
You'll come back, and when it's dark and when it's winter time, it'll be nice to have someone, like you'll know you'll have like someone there to keep you company at least.
That is true. That is true. And also just very interesting to learn, what they are doing. For example, my roommate, he was, I think in the beginning, he was looking into like philosophy major at NYU. I think NYU is also known for its philosophy undergrad. I'm not sure undergrad or grad, but I think its philosophy program is pretty good. And he's studying psychology and mathematics, plays guitar, like really fit. So it's just really cool. I think having a roommate is an awesome experience.
Do you still talk to him, or?
Yeah, still.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, you're saying that it was supposed to be for a triple, but you and your friend got the triple room.
right.
I'm just thinking about what we would call that, because do you call it a dingle when you have
Dingle?
a dingle when you have a room that's meant to be a double, but you're the only one living in it? That's what we call it.
Wait, that's luxury in New York
I'm thinking
City.
like if it's triple and a double.
Trouble.
Trouble. That's funny. That could be, you could start that at NYU.
Well, definitely not a trouble in my opinion, but yeah, that sounds like it.
That's funny. Yeah. Okay, cool. And I guess just talking about, I know you guys have a really fun orientation week. Like there's a lot of activities. I don't know. Do you remember that at all? Do you want to give any details about that?
Let's see. Yeah, I think it was pretty fun, except the summer when our class got admitted, it was super, super, super hot. Like the heat wave is nonstop in New York City. I'm not sure if you remember, but I mean, we went to college in the same summer, but
yeah,
it was
I think
super
I remember.
Hot. Yeah. So actually, two anecdotes to that. Two anecdotes. So first, I'll answer a question, right, about what's the orientation week like. I think that also differs across different schools, but at least in Stern, the moment you get in, you're organized into cohorts. And then there are orientation leaders who are upperclassmen or sophomore students who want to give back, right, and lead the new freshmen and let them know how great the campus is, what activities are out there. So we did a lot of interesting activities. So there was a scavenger hunt. We went into Central Park to do that. But combining that with the heat of that summer, that was definitely not the most pleasant experience. I'm sure if the weather is slightly better, that'll be much better. But they do organize a lot of different events. And different cohorts also have this kind of competition. I forgot exactly what was the actual competition event, but I remember people are making up songs, making up dances, filming. It was fun. I remember it was fun. It was a great time to get to know people, especially you just got into a new environment. When you're in a cohort, I still talk to several of them because we met through a cohort. So that is definitely one thing as well. Meet new friends. I got assigned to this dorm called Reuben. So that's the only dorm I think within NYU that does not have any air conditioning. The reason I'm not entirely sure, I think it's mainly because of, I think the building is located in is some kind of like a historical landmark or something, something like that. So they can't modify the outside look that much. That's why you can't put on, I guess, like the little fence, the box for the air conditioning. Maybe that's why they didn't do it. But essentially, because that summer was so hot, school was worried that freshmen are gonna like pass out left and right in the dorm. So what they did is that in our dorm, only second floor lounge have air conditioning. So they brought a lot of little beds, little cots, and then laid them out like throughout the second floor. And then everybody, you shower up there and then you sleep down here. Everybody sleep together in like, and then it was like weird, but it was also super interesting. Maybe that's the best word to describe it. And because everyone was suffering together, it was a very good bonding experience. And I also made a lot of friends during that period. So
camping.
Yeah, exactly. We occupied the entire dance room and then just like dragged like little cots into there and then brought our blankets and bed sheets.
It made its mark on you. You'll remember that forever.
I'll remember that forever. I guess true friendship only comes out through suffering. Maybe that's true.
Another quote to put on your wall, everyone. Take that.
Right.
What favorite restaurant do you have around NYU that you highly recommend?
Let's see. Well, there are several places I don't remember the name of, so that kind of sucks.
There's so many that it's hard to keep track.
That is true, yeah. Anywhere like all the food places near Washington Square Park, which there are a lot. Also the places near Union Square, there's a lot of different places. Okay, it's been too long since I've been on campus. I don't remember their names. But there's this one small place that's really good. I don't remember it anymore.
Do you remember the landmarks around it?
So if you were to head toward Washington Square Park, like toward the more southern part of the city, or like going downtown, and then before you right after you finish going through Washington Square Park, perhaps turn right, and then after like 2 streets turn left. There is one place right there.
So everyone, when you're in the city, turn on this podcast and face yourself south and follow the direction.
That's right. I will be your very own city tour guide. But yeah, do explore. City have a lot of things to offer, and definitely wouldn't disappoint.
So how does I guess just like talking about your schedule for next year, since you're graduating early, a year early, how is that looking?
I think that's only possible with all my AP credits that I apply from back when I was in high school. So especially for international students who might not know what AP credits are, essentially in high school you can take college level classes and they yield credits that you can use in college. So that is to both show that you have the ability to take some classes as well as to save you some money and graduate early, if you choose to do so. So yeah, I'll be applying my AP credits to meet the graduation requirement. And next semester, I have been taking like full course load every semester till now, which I'll continue doing next semester. So you're taking 5 different classes to finish all the requirements. And also I will be the TA, the teaching assistant for 2 different classes. That will be very interesting as well.
2 classes?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations. And that's a lot, right? I mean,
I think it's fine. I mean, each one is like 8 to 10 hours every week. I mean, like, I don't think it's that bad. Because previously, my sophomore fall, I was commuting between Great Neck to the city. That was like 2 hours of my day every day. And then I was working around 30 to 40 hours every week and taking 5 classes. So next semester is definitely better than that.
Oh my goodness. So are you excited? I mean, you're graduating so soon.
Yeah, it's too fast. I like more time to experience, everything that NYU has to offer. I made all these plans to do the international studies and really experience what that is like. But as you know, because COVID and travel restriction, that never happened. Well, it's a shame, but
in the future, hopefully.
In the future, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I think that's a good note to end on. Is there anything you want to share, or anyone you want to shout out, or anything to plug on the podcast?
Anything to plug? I mean, not particular at the moment, but I guess just generally like closing remark advice. Explore a lot. Do not pigeonhole yourself in, no matter which university you're attending. Especially if you're at such a international, very globalized and very like a university that really prides the breadth of its disciplines, then make sure that you're utilizing everything to explore. And also don't be afraid to ask questions, right? Leave comments down in the comment section. Ask Caroline, right? For like
Yes.
university tips.
Mhm.
So always be asking people who have knowledge in this area to best prepare yourself for your future endeavors. That's always I guess an important thing to keep in your mind.
Nice. Thanks, Weiting. Claps for Weiting.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. And just to wrap up the podcast, thank you all for listening and for sticking with us. And I know I learned a lot today from Weiting about recruitment and finance and being an international student and just everything. Lots of information about Stern. Be sure to, if you're watching this as a video podcast on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe, and also comment down below, like Weiting was saying, about what you'd like to see next, what other podcast ideas you had for episodes. And if you're listening to this on any other streaming platform, make sure to follow and like as well. And do you want to try this new thing, Weiting? I was thinking we could do a virtual high five in the video, and then we would, which side am I on for you?
You're on the left.
3, 2.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Clap. Yay! Yes. That was good. All right. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.